Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Kineo Office Hours today. A little bit about myself. My name is Taylor Craig, and I'm the Learning Platform Specialist here at Kineo. I do all things Totara training. Let's talk a little bit about office hours. This is an exclusive service that we offer to our clients. We have a 15-minute feature presentation and then exclusively for our clients, 45 minutes of open floor questions. So if you are a Kineo client, please come bring me your questions. No questions too big, no questions too small. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure I do know someone who does. So let's talk about a little bit what we're going to talk about today. We're going to cover SCORM packages versus a lesson. Which to use, which not to use. I think you should probably consider using them both. Let's take a look at some similarities and some differences. A lot of times we see people utilize lesson as a starting off point, and then when they decide to, they kind of more advanced, they start leaning in the direction of SCORM. SCORM is also something that is very, very common in the business sector of learning management systems. And so it's something that you're probably going to hear the word tossed around a lot in LMS and business type world. But some people aren't aware of what's available and as core just inside of Totara already. So the similarities, they both have the ability to deliver a significant amount of content. They're both gradable. They both give you the ability to quiz learners, and they both have the ability to have flow control. They're both interactive to a point, but you'll notice that I have interactive leaning more so into the SCORM circle than into the lesson circle. So there is a slight difference there, and you'll get to see that in action today. So one thing about lesson, it is core to Totara. It does have a timer available. SCORM, you do need an external system. You need something like Adapt, or you need something like Storyline in order to build that SCORM content and then place it into something like Totara. Time limits can be set as needed, and the timers do work very differently in the two different types of learning content delivery. So SCORM, what does that word mean? It's obviously an acronym, and it stands for Shareable Content Object Reference Model. So what in the world does that actually mean? That means that it is a packaged piece of content. Typically it's interactive, and it is compatible with multiple different systems. So it's compatible in various different learning management systems, even in some HR systems. You can utilize SCORM content in different places. It's a reader basically. So, and Totara is definitely SCORM compliant. Totara is SCORM compliant. Moodle is SCORM compliant. Lots and lots of different LMSs out there are definitely SCORM compliant. So, lots of reasons to use SCORM. In most cases, SCORM is very, very pretty. Has a lot of animation, sometimes very interactive, gives that learner that feeling of actually being involved in the course. So lots of cool features to a SCORM package. So what exactly is a lesson? Lesson, again, is core to Totara. It's something that you already have in your system, and it allows you to present a series of HTML pages to a learner. I've seen some people who are very skilled in HTML make a lesson look fabulous. In the example I'm using today, I'm using images, so it looks a lot better than it probably is, but I actually took some images and placed those images into place. However, that's definitely one way that you can utilize a lesson. So we're going to see different ways to use that. Again, core to Totara, fairly interactive content. You can allow your learners to jump from one page to another based on a variety of different things. If they get the answer correct, they go one way. If they get it wrong, they go another. So you have those options as well. It's gradable. You can quiz your learners and deliver content at the same time. So lots of good things to do with a lesson. So let's step away from that for a second and take a look as a learner. So I'm going to go into this course called SCORM versus Lesson. We're actually going to look at the lesson first because it's kind of that starting off point. People who don't have maybe Storyline or Adapt skills sometimes might want to start out with a lesson, get comfortable with it, utilize that, and then eventually look into utilizing SCORM. And if you don't have the skills to do it yourself, we do that here at Kineo, and we have a fantastic e-learning team, and you're going to get to see some of their work today. So we're setting expectations. We're going to meet the team. So taking a look at this, again, all I did is I grabbed a screenshot and I placed that image in. But you can create these images in whatever you might want to create them in and then add them in. Or you can type in your own content. Again, something that you can do strictly, totally, and completely within Totara. You get these buttons, next and exit and back buttons. You can tell Totara what you want that button to say. You can do whatever you would like to with that. Here we have the static image. Move forward. Here we have the page that's the most interactive, and you're going to see it be the most interactive in the actual SCORM package itself when we look at it. So here we have Meet the Teams. We've got our AccuPro team and our Oakwood Suites team and our Franklin Die and Press team. And we want to learn more about each of these individuals. So what we can do is we can click on the button and learn more about them. We can go back to that slide. Same with the Oakwood Suites folks. Learn more about those. Go back and meet the team, find out more about Franklin, learn about them. We can either go back to the same page or we could exit. You have the back and forward and exit buttons. Again, you can customize those or configure those to look however you may want them to look or say anything you want them to say. So we're going to exit and then return back to the course. Again, inside of a lesson, you can also have quiz questions inside of that lesson where you ask them questions about the content that they're learning about and really get them involved. So you do have the ability to do that with a lesson as well. So let's take a look at the exact same content, but in relation to a SCORM package. So this is a packaged set of files. Lots and lots of files go into this. Again, created by an authoring tool. I believe this particular one was created by Adapt. And let's go ahead and enter and take a look. So we've got great animation popping in, the logo bounces in, kind of gives you that feel of, ooh, this is slick learning. This particular learning here was designed by Kineo's e-learning team and also with the assistance of the Oxford Group as the subject matter experts. Oxford Group is now part of City and Guilds, which is part of Kineo as well. So they've done a fantastic job on this. This is through what we call our Frontline Leaders program. And here we have all of the different teams. You'll notice when I mouse over these, they do light up. When you click on them, it pops up the same content, but in a much less, much fewer clicks type of format. So we're able to see Oakwood Suites, Franklin Die. It is telling me that I can click to exit. Also, when I click on this help icon down here, it gives me distinct instructions as far as how I'm supposed to utilize this content and how I'm supposed to use it. And then we can exit the activity and return back to the course. So again, in that particular one, that one was very content driven. So it didn't have questions in it. However, with SCORM, you can have questions in there. I mentioned that both can have timers. SCORM, depending on the authoring tool and depending on how you design it, you can design it to have where they have to stay on a page for a particular period of time. Lesson, you do also have the ability to add a timer, but the timer functions very differently. The timer in a lesson module is going to just count down as the learner is inside of that lesson. And then once the timer expires, if they still have further questions they need to answer inside of that lesson, it is not going to count those towards their score. So that's how that timer works versus setting a timer inside of SCORM. So that is why you might use SCORM versus a lesson, why you might start with lesson and progress to SCORM, or why you might just go all out and get the Kineo e-learning team to make you some fantastic e-learning in SCORM. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Let's hear your questions.